Let go of the helpfulness complex and respect the fate of others. Those protagonists don't need help. It was not easy to pass through once. In addition to some difficult feelings, the rest is to experience some famous scenes, eat melons, watch dramas and spit out roast. Of course, there is also famous sword, fine wine, unparalleled beauty. Keywords of the novel. The melon-eating swordsman in the world of the ancient dragon without a pop-up window, the complete collection download of the melon-eating swordsman in the world of the ancient dragon TXT, and the latest chapter reading of the melon-eating swordsman in the world of the ancient dragon chapter 1. Starting with Xian'er, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Starting with Xian'er on winter nights, the cold wind howls. But the room, burning several pots of charcoal, is warm as spring. The young man lying in bed opened his eyes and saw the carved wooden pillars and warm yellow curtains on the top of the bed, flickering with ambiguous light and shadow under the dim candlelight. A white and tender jade hand, like a spring onion, gently brushed against the young man's chest. A gentle and sweet voice rang in his ear, "What are you thinking, not talking to anyone?" Along with the sound of speaking, there is a smooth and soft touch that sticks to the young man's arms and sides. The brain of young people crashes directly. "Are you still angry about what I said to Qin Zhong?" The sweet female voice continued, "I'm doing it for your own good. After all, Qin Zhong's father is a fearless Qin Xiaoyi from all directions, renowned in the martial arts world. I know you're not afraid of him, but people's words are frightening, let alone." The female voice paused, grabbed the young man's hand, and gently placed it somewhere. "You have to believe me and the others are just acting on the spot, and you." At the same time, with a faint fragrance blowing on the young man's temples, "I've given you my body. What else do you have to be angry about?" The young man's brain crashed and he turned his head stiffly, finally seeing the speaker. Snowy skin and jade bones, slender willows in full bloom. The slightly curved willow eyebrows, a perky cheong nose, full red lips, a fair and rosy jade-like appearance, especially those bright and moist eyes that seemed to speak, seemed to tell the young man how much she loved him. The young man couldn't help but take a deep breath, even though he already knew the woman's appearance in his mind, he still had to sigh at this moment. Pretty, it's so beautiful. It is indeed flawless. Watching from such a close distance, the pores are delicate, the skin is tender, full, and shiny. Even in modern times, high-definition images are the most impressive. The faces that young people used to see were all beautiful photos of beautiful women posted online. In ancient times, it is not excessive to be called the most beautiful woman in the martial arts world. Yes, this woman is Xian'er. And the young man just had a fierce battle with Xian'er. He still remembers the details of the just intense battle in his mind, but what he actually experienced was not him. Lost. The young man couldn't help but grit his teeth and looked at Xian'er with a complicated expression in his eyes. This is a snake and scorpion beauty, a character who eats people without spitting out bones. Whoever dares to fall in love with her must be prepared to go to the 18th level of hell. At this time, the young man is still influenced by the memories and emotions he just had, and he admires Xian'er extremely. Seeing the struggle in the young man's eyes, Xian'er's gaze flickered, pressing down on the young man's jade hand and exerting a slight force. Actually, our rendezvous was also for you." Xian'er crawled into the arms of the young man and said, "The plum blossom thief has set his sights on me. I don't want you to take the risk of fighting him. If he can attack Qin Zhong, you can take the opportunity to take action." Xian'er held the young man's cheeks and said with a deep expression, "If you kill the plum blossom thief, the wealth that the aristocratic family uses as a reward will be my dowry, and I can also marry you openly." Feeling the softness in his hands and the affectionate performance of Xian'er in front of him, the young man took a deep breath again, controlled his gaze to soften, and recalled his love for her in his memory. He said softly, "I just want to be by your side all the time, it's just a plum blossom thief." I won't give him a chance to take action. Staring at the young man's gaze, Xian'er finally smiled, sweetly and delicately, as if a fairy was on earth. Even if he knew about Xian'er's character, the young man couldn't help but feel a beat in his heart. Although he had never been to those romantic places, he dared to guarantee that the top brands from hundreds of years later were not Xian'er's opponents. She can really maximize her strengths. She can speak all over her body. Feeling the changes in her youth, Xian'er smiled even happier and twisted her body gently. I know you're not afraid of him, but if you have full confidence, wouldn't it be even better? We still have a long time to go in the future. Xian'er teased the young man as she tried to refuse and greet him, saying, moreover, as a man, you still bear the responsibility of inheriting the reputation of your master and father. If you continue to accompany me, how can you practice martial arts? Xian'er looked at the young man with seductive eyes, blushing like a tide, and emotions moving like water. Watching Xian'er's performance, the young man was simply amazed. This kind of woman must not be too close to her, otherwise even ironsmiths can't bear it. And knowing about Xian'er's temperament and future life, the young man had no intention of helping her correct her ways. Since that's the case in the eyes of the young man who has already had in-depth communication and is familiar with the plot, and does not want to have further communication with Xian'er, if he does not play enough at once, it is simply a loss to his grandmother's family, and he has wasted his time traveling. So the young man's expression straightened and he wiped the corner of his mouth as he looked at Xian'er and said, "You're right. I really can't let my master and father's reputation go down, and I can't be addicted to the gentle countryside. Xian'er, you're really my virtuous inner helper." But the young man's hand tightened heavily, "But watching you talk to Qin Zhong like that, I'm still very angry. You want to compensate me?" While Xian'er was feeling pain, an excited light flashed in her eyes. She lightly bit her lower lip and chuckled, "I am already your person. I can compensate you any way you want." The young man nodded and turned over. The gasping sound in the cold fragrant small building continued until the east turned white and the candlelight automatically extinguished, then slowly fell silent. The young man walked off the bed, dressed in brocade, but his steps remained steady. Xian'er lay in bed, sweating profusely and looking satisfied. The young man glanced at the sword box on the round table in the room, but there was no hint of nostalgia in his eyes. He turned to look at Xian'er and said, "You must carry this sword close to you to ensure everything is safe." Xian'er smiled softly and said, "Don't worry, even if it's for you, I will take good care of myself." The young man nodded and said, "I'm leaving." As the words fell, the young man walked out of the bedroom, but he did not take the stairs. Instead, he climbed out of the building through the window in the hallway, and his body flew down into the woods in the backyard. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared into the depths of the woods. Sleeping slot. It's really amazing. So this is lightness skill. It really feels like flying, it's so exciting, huh? The young man remained calm on the surface, but was quite excited and returned to his courtyard. Then he saw a waiter carrying a plate and coming to the door of his bedroom. "Master Yu Shao, please have breakfast." Newcomers and new books, looking forward to everyone's support. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Setting down the helping complex and respecting the fate of others. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Setting down the helping complex and respecting the fate of others. Yu Longsheng, the young master of Jinzhong Zongjin Mountain Villa, the son of Zhonglong Old Man, and the close-door descendant of Tianshan Zuyingzi. In The Affectionate Swordsman and the Heartless Sword, he is also a young genius swordsman who pierced Li Xunhuan's fur on his first appearance. The son of a famous family, with a proud temperament, even Zhao Jingyi dared to speak sarcastically, and he was the only person who caught the eye of Li Xunhuan among the guests in Xingyin village. Of course, it collapsed afterwards. In a face-to-face confrontation, Li Xunhuan couldn't make her move half a step. She disguised herself as attacking Afei but was knocked off her long sword. 2 years later, when she appeared again, she had already become one of the faces of the great joyful female bodhisattva. Then he helped Li Xunhuan kill the great joyful female bodhisattva and obtained Li Xunhuan's friend certification. A proper tragic figure. The young man sat at the table in his room, eating breakfast, feeling his martial arts skills, recalling the memories of Yu Longsheng, and recalling the plot of the novel. From now on, he is Yu Longsheng. It's okay, it's okay. Yu Longsheng drinks another mouthful of sweet congee, picks up a spring rolls and eats it. Although due to his young age, his internal skill cultivation is not yet mature, in Gu Long's novels, he himself does not pay attention to internal strength. Generally, the internal skill masters who appear are all background boards. But besides that, my swordsmanship and lightness skills are both very powerful. Although I am not as good as the two perverts Afei and Jing Wuming, I am also a first class swordsman in the martial arts world. Sanlong, an old man, valued Yu Longsheng very much and was worried that he couldn't help spoiling him. He even invited his old friend Tian Shan Shuangzi to live in Sangjin Mountain Villa for 10 years, teaching Yu Longsheng. So, with a solid foundation, Yu Longsheng was able to establish such a great reputation in the martial arts world at the age of less than 20. Even with the legacy of his master and ancestors, his own strength is still excellent. But there hasn't been any progress for a long time. My predecessor was proud. Yu Longsheng shook his head, then an excited light flashed in his eyes. Sleeping in a slot. Martial arts. I've actually traveled into the world of martial arts novels, it's so exciting. Compared to having practiced martial arts for over a decade, after his father passed away and his master retired, he was gradually praised as his proud predecessor. Now, Yu Longsheng's enthusiasm for martial arts has been directly boosted. How many Chinese people dream of this? Not to mention those young people, even in the middle age of Yolong's life, people had a martial arts dream of riding horses in the martial arts world and wielding swords. Midnight dreams never fade away. I made a mistake. If I buy a complete set of Gu Long's works, I can travel through Gu Long's novels. I should have bought Jin Yong's complete works, it's safe there. Forget it, that's it. Gu Long's novels are also very enjoyable, and compared to other novels, the world of Little Li Flying Dagger is already very safe. I don't know how to develop in the future, can I still go back? Anyway, I'm alone and my whole family is not hungry. Come and enjoy it. Yu Long regained his mood and then put his gaze before his eyes. The story of Li Xunhuan, the heartless swordsman, mainly tells the story of Li Xunhuan returning to the Central Plains after seeing off his wife, washing away false accusations, and then killing the big boss Shangguan Jinhong and marrying a young and beautiful little girl named Sun Xiaohong. I summarized so insightfully. But in this simple story, it has contributed a group of characters with distinct personalities that are widely known. Li Xunhuan and Afei. Shangguan Jinhong and Jing Wuming. Lin Xian'er scumbag light almost overshadowed the two female protagonists before and after. This is a celebrity from the first tier. In addition, Lin Shirin, Long Xiaoyun, Sun Xiaohong, Tianji Old Man, and even by Shaoxing and De Huanqi Bodhisattva, who rarely appear, are well known. As for the current plot, the Plum Blossom Thief reappeared and committed several major crimes. The martial arts gateways of the Central Plains, big and small, with some wealth and daughters, collectively offered hanging red as a reward for the Plum Blossom Thief. And the person in charge of this matter is Long Xiaoyun, the fourth lord of the Cloud Dragon who sits in Xingyan Village, Baoding Prefecture, has broad social connections and is eager for justice. Because at his mansion, there was also Lin Xian'er, the most famous beauty in the martial arts world who had risen in fame in the past 2 years. She was also a target of the Plum Blossom Thieves and had spoken out that she could kill the Plum Blossom Thieves, so she committed herself to marrying them. The key point is that it is said that the Plum Blossom Thief has already arrived at Baoding Prefecture and has appeared in Xingyan Manor before. In this way, some experts and young heroes from the Central Plains and North China came to this place, first to fame, second to wealth, and third to bring back beautiful women. The most famous masters among them are Zhao Jingyi, who is selfless and iron-faced, Qin Xiaoyi, who is fearless in all directions, Tian Qi, who is oppressed by a stick, and Mo Yun, who is famous for his Moyun 14 style. But the one with the most background is actually the young master of the Zhangjin Mountain Villa in Jinzhong, Yu Longsheng. Because Zhangjin Mountain Villa is located in Jinzhong and has the advantage of coal and iron, it is skilled in smelting iron and forging swords, and has connections with surrounding forces. The old villa owner, Songlong Old Man, even has strong connections with the leaders of Shaolin, Wudong, and Kunlun. Although the old man of Songlong has died, the industry and trade relations of Zhangjin Villa are still present, and Yu Longsheng has inherited all of this. However, with the youthful vigor of Yu Longsheng, he entrusted the maintenance and handling of these commercial networks to his subordinates, while he rode freely in the martial arts world. After hearing the rumors of the plum blossom thief, he came to Xinyan village and immediately fell in love with Lin Xian'er at first sight, bowing down to her pomegranate skirt. Yesterday's incident was when Lin Xian'er said she was worried that she would be powerless in the face of plum blossom thief. Yu Longsheng gave him the secret fish intestine short sword from the Zhangjin Mountain Villa to let her defend herself. Lick the dog. Yu Longsheng complained about himself. The fish intestine sword is not a bronze artifact passed down from the Warring States period, but a good steel forged unintentionally by the Zhangjin Mountain Villa through millions of smelting processes. It has created such a sharp weapon that cuts iron like mud, and then used the ancient famous sword to raise its own value. So Yu Longsheng didn't care, let alone he didn't have a chance to retrieve it. But since it's the fish intestine sword I just sent, the plot hasn't started yet, or rather, it should be just the beginning. Yu Longsheng clips another spring rolls, and Qin Zhong has not been seriously injured by the plum blossom robber, and the main plot has not yet been opened. Since that's the case, should I change the plot? Yu Long finished eating the spring rolls raw, drank the last mouthful of sweet congee in the bowl, nodded to the waiter beside him, and watched him take away the tableware. Not to mention anything else, as long as Li Xunhuan's attack on Long Xiaoyun is stopped, many things will become different in the future. Just then, a sudden commotion came from outside. Something that doesn't have long eyes. Bang! Ah! Get lost! The next moment, there was a knock on the door, and a crisp voice came from outside the door. Brother Yu, are you up yet? We agreed yesterday that I will take you to the city for a walk. The newcomer is none other than Long Xiaoyun. Yu Longsheng couldn't help but shake his head, let go of his helpfulness complex, and decided to respect the fate of others. He's not Long Xiaoyun's father, changed the plot of the yarn. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The plot is about to unfold. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The plot is about to unfold. Long Xiaoyun, this bare child, deserves to have his martial arts skills abolished. Afei, this fool deserves to be teased and played with by Lin Xian'er. Li Xunhuan, this sage, deserves to be immersed in regret and sadness. Anyway, the final outcome is always good. Why did he change? He really wants to change. God knows if things will get worse. Traveling through a lifetime, reviving a lifetime, without any systematic tasks, he only needs to witness the famous scenes he yearns for in this world, and the rest is naturally wandering the rivers and lakes. For example, Yu Longsheng opened the door and saw Long Xiaoyun standing at the door, dressed in red and dressed in mink fur, as if carved in powder and jade. Baoding Prefecture is an important town in Hebei, but it's my first time here. I still want to thank Brother Yun for taking me on a tour. Yu Longsheng smiled. Long Xiaoyun looked curiously at Yu Longsheng. He actually doesn't like Yu Longsheng at all because he is even more proud than himself. Even when facing his father, he only maintains politeness, and the arrogance in his attitude can be seen by people. But his father respected him very much and even reminded him to have a good relationship with him. So, Lord Long Xiaoyun, who can walk horizontally in Baoding Prefecture, warmly invites Yu Longxing to visit the city together. Although Yu Longxing agreed at the time, there was still a clear distance between him and himself. Why did he become enthusiastic after not seeing him all night? Seeing Long Xiaoyun's gaze, Yu Longxing immediately knew the problem, but he didn't want to always maintain his proud persona. This persona is too tiring and pretentious, let alone the meaningless pride displayed in front of everyone, and it is not suitable for an heir of Cangjin Villa who has connections with various forces and needs to deal with them. And what is satisfying is that after a night of adjustment, the influence of Yu Longxing's original personality on him has become smaller and smaller. Since that's the case, isn't it normal for a proud teenager to become warm and mature due to love? Of course, as the young master of Cangjin Mountain Villa, the disciple of Tian Shan Shuangzi, who was once known as the #1 swordsman in the world, and the memory of Yu Longxing himself, he can always regain his proud posture. After all, many people also eat this trick. Yu Longxing smiled slightly and said, Xian'er said that Lady Long is like her sister, and you are like her nephew, treating her very well. In that case, everyone will be a family. Long Xiaoyun immediately realized that he couldn't help but curl his lips in secret, thinking to himself that he was once again a disciple of a famous family who was subservient to Lin Xian'er's skirt. However, on the surface, Long Xiaoyun showed an innocent smile and said, all right, everyone was originally a family. I think Brother Yu and Aunt Xian'er are the best match. The corner of Yu Longxing's mouth curved, with a cold and noble temperament, coupled with a warm smile, which made the two attendants who often saw Yu Longxing's aloofness and arrogance breathe a sigh of relief. Serving Long Xiaoyun is tiring enough. Let's have another Yu Longxing. They are afraid that if they are not careful, they won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Master. At this moment, the door of the adjacent room opened, and two strong men appeared at the door, dressed in green clothes and carrying swords behind them. They were two subordinates of Yu Longxing and also sword servants of the Cangjin Mountain Villa. Yu Longxing travels in the martial arts world with various miscellaneous matters, and of course, he cannot be alone. Today, Yun and I went to Baoding City and didn't need you, Yu Longxing waved his hand and said calmly. If you feel bored in Zhuangzi, you can also go to the city and come back early tomorrow morning. Duan Qian and Feng Wan's eyes lit up as they all bowed and arched their hands, yes. Then Long Xiaoyun pulled Yu Longxing away, with one attendant following and the other approaching Duan Qianhe and Feng Wan, offering a bag of broken silver, meticulous and thoughtful. The ancient Baoding prefecture was much more prosperous than what Yu Longxing had imagined. As a transportation hub in the north, it borders the Taihang Mountains to the west and the Hebei North Plain to the east. The city is high and the pool is deep, with a large population. Merchants from the southeast, northwest, and north have to pass through Baoding prefecture. So as long as there are products that can be called on the market, they can be found in Baoding prefecture. Shoe embroidery in the southwest, porcelain in the southeast, refined salt in the northwest, and leather goods in the northeast. Its exquisite and meticulous design is quite stunning, even for those who have traveled through time. Strolling along the way, Long Xiaoyun was pleasantly courteous, and Yu Longxing occasionally responded. Their communication was quite harmonious. Until they met Zhao Jingyi. Master Yun, Master Yu Xiao. Mr. Zhao. Long Xiaoyun smiled naively and happily. However, Yu Longxing put on the airs of the young master, only nodding and asking calmly, why is Mr. Zhao also available for a trip? Zhao Jingyi said with a serious expression, Master, you misunderstood. Nowadays, plum blossom thieves are appearing around Baoding Mansion. Zhao is determined to be a public figure and dare not neglect it. He is patrolling the city with some kind-hearted heroes and heroes. If he is lucky enough to encounter plum blossom thieves, he can also eliminate harm for the people. The 10 or so people following Zhao Jingyi all showed a proud expression with Yorong Yen. If the communication with Long Xiaoyun made Yu Longxing feel like he was fighting against a master, then Zhao Xingyi was completely using his reputation to suppress others. His facial expressions were fake, his words were corrupt, and he felt uncomfortable listening. Not to mention the current Yu Longxing, even the previous Yu Longxing looks down on him. Apart from being able to live up to his dignity, it's difficult to say a few words. The young master of Cangjian Mountain Villa does not need to give iron face selfless face. Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Zhao. Yu Longxing nodded without speaking to anyone else before taking a step. Zhao Xingyi's mouth twitched, his hatred flashed in his eyes, and then he saw Long Xiaoyun. Mr. Zhao, thank you for your hard work. Long Xiaoyun chuckled and said, when I entertain brother Yu, I will come and join you. No need, no need. Zhao Xingyi waved his hand repeatedly and said, Master Yu Xiao has just arrived in Baoding. Young Master Yun will accompany him for more walks. He is just a plum blossom thief, a hidden person. As long as he dares to show his head, the heroes of the world can cut him alive. It's just that with the presence of Zhao Dashou, it's enough to deal with the plum blossom thief. Young Master Yun, please do as you please. Amidst the lively greetings and goodbyes from everyone, Long Xiaoyun and Yu Longxing continued to move forward, and Yu Longxing could hear the murmuring sound coming from behind. Master Youxiao's hands are so stable, it looks like a master of swordsmanship. With sharp eyes and noble temperament, he truly deserves to be the young master of Cangjian Mountain Villa. I heard that he was the close-door disciple of the former world's top swordsman, Tian Shan Shuangzi. His swordsmanship was superb and he had already reached the top of the world. The sound was not loud, just so that Yu Longxing could faintly hear it. I have to say, what they said sounds really good. If it weren't for Yu Longxing knowing the plot and his own ending, he wouldn't have believed it. Yu Longxing. Long Xiaoyun took Yu Longxing to stroll for a day, tasted osmanthus cake, bought silk clothes, listened to The Red Brush Girl, and had dinner at the famous Dengyun building in Baoding Prefecture. When I returned to Xingyan village, it was already late at night. Then they heard bad news. The plum blossom thief had just appeared and wanted to kidnap Lin Xian'er, but was stopped by Qin Zhong who was not far away at the time. Although Lin Xian'er was not abducted, Qin Zhong was seriously injured by the plum blossom thief. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. A horse leaving the city and heading north. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. A horse leaving the city and heading north. Qin Chong, the jade-faced divine fist, is the eldest son of Qin Xiaoyi, who is known for his iron courage and martial arts prowess. He is nearly 30 years old and is the only secular disciple of the current Shaolin abbot, Master Xinhu. He is skilled in Shaolin Divine Fist and is a younger generation in the martial arts world, with few opponents. But he is still not a match for the Plum Blossom Thieves. Although he avoided the crucial moment and the Plum Blossom Thief did not add a single mark to Xingyan village due to the large number of experts, the 5 Plum Blossom marks nailed to his right chest passed through his chest. The sinister energy, like a gangrene attached to the bones, made Qin Zhong unconscious. Even after taking the Shaolin holy medicine Xunhuan Dan, he still lingered on the brink of life and death. When Yu Longxing arrived at Qin Zhong's room, he saw that his face was pale as paper, his eyebrows twitched from time to time, and his breathing seemed to be absent, indicating that he had not yet escaped the danger period. Qin Sanyi, please forgive me for being powerless. At Qin Chang's bedside, a doctor pulled his hand away from his wrist and looked at an old man in a purple robe next to him. He shook his head and said, the unique hidden weapon of the Plum Blossom Thief, with his unique strength, has already injured Qin Gongzi's heart, lungs, and major veins. Although Xiao Huandan temporarily suspended his life, if there is no expert to treat him within 10 days, I'm afraid. The old man in the purple robe had a face like heavy dates and long beards that crossed his abdomen. He was Qin Chang's father, Qin Xiaoyi, and also a disciple of a common Shaolin family. He specialized in martial arts and with just 2 iron gallstones, He achieved the nickname Iron Gallstones Shake All Directions in the land of Dashou. But at this moment, his face was very ugly, with a hint of redness and whiteness. He didn't expect that the plum blossom thief would harm someone for the first time, and the victim would be his own son. Although he has several sons, undoubtedly the most talented and outstanding one is this eldest son. He originally wanted Qin Zhong to take Lin Xian'er and share the millions of assets contributed by these dozens of martial arts portals. Unfortunate start. Beside him, a middle-aged man in luxurious attire frowned and asked, "Dr. Du, you are already the top doctor in Baoding Prefecture. In your opinion, who else can save Prince Qin?" Yu Longsheng looked at the middle-aged man, who was the owner of Xingyan Manor, Long Xiaoyun. Dr. Du hesitated after hearing this and said, "If it's because I'm old and proud, there may not be a holy hand in Baoding Mansion that can cure Prince Qin." Long Xiaoyun immediately looked at Qin Xiaoyi and said, "I heard that Sai Huatua appeared in Jinan Prefecture a while ago. I will immediately send someone to invite him." Zhao Jingyi was the best at observing words and expressions. He could immediately see the hesitation in the old man's expression. Seeing that Qin Xiaoyi seemed to have also noticed something, he quickly asked, "Dr. Du has something to say, but there is still something hidden." Zhao Jingyi paused and said in a deep voice, "Qin Gongzi is the only secular disciple of the abbot of Shaolin today. If you knowingly conceal the method of treatment, it is not a decoration to have 100,000 ordinary members of Shaolin." Dr. Du was startled. He couldn't afford to offend the 100,000 disciples of Shaolin. I dare not conceal it." Dr. Du shook his head quickly and said, "However, this person is not in Baoding Prefecture, and I am not sure if he can treat the injury of the nobleman." "Who the hell is he?" Qin Xiaoyi immediately asked. "Have you heard of the 7 wonderful people?" Dr. Du suddenly asked. 7 wonderful people have been famous for more than 20 years, of course we have heard of them." Qin Xiaoyi frowned and said, "I heard they are all outsiders from evil sects and scattered people from the lower reaches of the martial arts world. Are you talking about the Miao Lang among the 7 wonderful people? He has this ability. It's Mr. Xian'er, the wonderful doctor." Dr. Du said, "I saw him in Baoding Mansion treating people's illnesses, and he is indeed above the old age. It's not an exaggeration to say that he is a skilled doctor." "Where is he?" Qin Xiaoyi immediately asked. "Sai Huatua is far away in Jinan Prefecture. When they find him and bring him back, his son's first 7 years may have passed. I don't know where he is, but I know his elder brother Mr. Mei's estate is located in a town near Beiping Prefecture," said Dr. Du. "I'll send someone over immediately," said Long Xiaoyun. Qin Xiaoyi said, "I will personally go there." Long Xiaoyun's eyes rolled and he looked at Qin Zhong lying on the bed. Suddenly, he interjected, "Brother Qin is seriously injured, and I want to go too. I must bring that doctor back and cure Brother Qin." "Okay." Long Xiaoyun nodded and heard Dr. Du say again, "A few heroes, please wait a moment. There are several rules for Mr. Xian'er's treatment." "What rules?" Long Xiaoyun asked. "Firstly, if the diagnosis fee is not paid in advance, it will not be treated," Dr. Du said. "Secondly, if one's words are disrespectful to him, it will not be treated. Thirdly, if one's words are disrespectful to him, he will not be treated. Thirdly, if one's words are disrespectful to him, he will not be treated either. Among a quack doctor, his status is not high and he has many rules," Zhao Jingyi said discontentedly. Seeing Dr. Du hesitating to speak, Qin Xiaoyi frowned and said, "What else do you have to say? Let's all say it together." Dr. Du hurriedly said, "It is said that Mr. Mei loves calligraphy and painting the most. If a few heroes can cater to his preferences, things may go much smoother." Long Xiaoyun's eyes flickered, but he didn't hesitate to say to Qin Xiaoyi, "There are many works by famous scholars from various dynasties in Chuangzi. Please take them, third brother." "Thank you very much, then I won't be polite. Qin Xiaoyi nodded immediately upon hearing this. It's not too late, let's set off now. I'll prepare horses for you. Long Xiaoyun patrolled the room and pulled over a man. This is Ba Ing, a brave man from the Heshua area. He is knowledgeable, agile, and familiar with both the inside and outside of the pass. He happened to accompany third brother and Xiaoyun. Upon hearing Long Xiaoyun's praise, Ba Ing had a long face, but also knew the seriousness of the matter. She quickly nodded with a sincere expression and said, Master, rest assured. I will do my best to help Qin Sanyi and Yun Xiaoyi find Mr. Meyer. When everyone turned to look at Long Xiaoyun, they saw that Yu Longxing was also there. Master Yu Xiao. Yu Longxing nodded and said, I didn't expect the plum blossom thief to be so reckless and hurt Qin brother. However, with Qin Sanyi and Yun Xiaodi taking action, I won't go. I'll stay at Xinyan village and see if the plum blossom thief will still appear. By the way, said Yu Longxing, turning to look at Long Xiaoyun. Miss Xian'er is not at Cold Fragrance Xiaozhu anymore. Everyone was speechless for a moment, and Long Xiaoyun's cheek twitched. Plum blossom thief appeared. Miss Lin was frightened and said she would hide for a few days. We don't know where she is at this moment. I see. Yu Longxing nodded, indicating a clear understanding. He thought to himself that the intelligence of the golden silk armor and the news of Li Xunhuan's entry into the border had been leaked, and people from all sides had gathered in the north. Yu Longxing circled around Long Xiaoyun and Zhao Xingyi, who were actually visible figures in Xinyan village and had not received any news. Anyway, he doesn't know. Of course I know now. So that night, after Qin Xiaoyi and Long Xiaoyun left, Yu Longxing left a message for Duan Qianhe and Feng Wan to stay in Xinyan village. He took a horse and used it as an excuse to search for plum blossom thieves, and then left the city. Well, but everyone speculates that he went to find Lin Xian'er. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Thousand Hand Raksha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Thousand Hand Raksha. Li Xunhuan entered the level and was the first to encounter Afei. Then he killed Zhuge Lei in a roadside hotel, but missed the golden armor. Next came a group of dead people, including the Blue Blood Twin Snakes, the chief and deputy bodyguards of the Golden Lion Escort Agency, the 4 disciples of the Blissful Cave Master, Purple-Faced Erlang and Lady Rose, Flower Bee, Thousand-Armed Raksha, Shi Yao Xian, and Pan Shaoan. Finally, in Mr. Mei's estate, Long Xiaoyun was deposed. It has to be said that the world of Gu Long is more dangerous than the world of Jin Yong. Even Li Xunhuan, who is famous all over the world, almost died after being poisoned by Sun Kuei, the purple-faced Erlang. Not to mention the fact that on the way to Shaolin Temple later, I was almost starving to death due to being watched by the Lord of the Blissful Cave. If you practice the 9-Yang manual in Jin Yong world, you will be safe from all poisons. Can I first travel through Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, and then pass the heartless sword of the loving swordsman. Yu Longxing galloped on the official road, looking up at the sky, and asked loudly. The sky is an endless expanse of white clouds, and no one answers him. Since that's the case, you must get the Lianhua Baojian, Yu Longxing muttered to himself. Wang Lianhua is also a master-level character in various novels of Gu Long. She is at the top of the line in identifying and using poison. With the Lianhua Baojian, when wandering in the martial arts world, she has an additional guarantee, at least not to worry about being poisoned to death. To put it this way, in the case where Yu Longxing did not take the initiative to die, the impact of Lianhua Baojian on him was much greater than that of Xiaoli Flying Dagger. Moreover, he is a swordsman. The secret, Divine Dragon 9-fold sword technique of Cangjin Mountain Villa is not weak, and he also learned the Wind and Snow 72 styles of Tian Shan Shuangzi. Whether unpredictable or swift and fierce, he is not inferior to any sword technique in the world. Sigh. At the crossroads of the official road, Yu Longxing pulled the reins and the horse slowly stopped under his crotch. He waved his neck and snorted. Yu Longxing looked around and looked bewildered. How should I go now? Why can others accurately find the target? How can the author arrange to break through? Is it too hasty for me to pick soldiers, generals, and directions? The current situation is very awkward. Although Yu Longxing knows the plot, he doesn't know the specific location. Gu Long's writing of novels has always been a stream of consciousness, and it is already very rare to be able to explain that Xinyan village is in Baoding Prefecture. Who knows where the small shop of Ximian Erlang is? Exit. Exit. The path to exit. Well, you should take the main road to pass. If the road width is similar, should we take the one with denser footprints? Since that's the case. Yu Longxing looked at the road on the left and then heard the sound of horse hooves coming from behind. Yu Longxing turned around and saw a jujube red horse galloping towards him, with a very beautiful woman on its back. A woman looks just over 30, which is the age when she holds the tail of youth and has a lot of experience, making her the pinnacle of beauty, temperament, and charm. The woman in front of me is. She was wearing clothes woven with gold thread, with pearls inlaid on the collar and a pure white cloak without any stray hair. There were 2 beautiful jade pieces hanging on the collar, and a luxurious dress accentuated her beautiful and heroic appearance. Even if there was a hint of indifference and malice in her eyes, others could easily mistake it for nobility and aloofness. This woman wouldn't just be. As the words fell, the woman arrived not far behind Yu Longxing, then pulled the reins and turned her head, rushing towards the fork in the road on the right. Did I go the wrong way? Yu Longxing was stunned and then met the gaze of the woman who turned around. What are you looking at, pervert? The woman glared at Yu Longxing and cursed, then waved her hand, throwing darts, sleeve arrows, silver needles, iron thistles, 5-pointed pearls, money darts, and jujube core nails, totaling 20.2 hidden weapons of 7 types, covering Yu Longxing's entire body. After waving her hand, the woman didn't even glance at Yu Longxing and turned her horse around before leaving. Sleeping slot. Yu Longxing cursed loudly, his long sword unsheathed. Choke. Ding 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 ding. After the 20-second sound, none of the 22 hidden weapons fell, all of which were knocked away by Yu Longxing's long sword. They did not scatter into the surrounding snow, but were all bounced onto the roadside of the official road and nailed to the trunks of 3 large trees. Crazy woman. 1,000-handed Rakshasa. Yu Longxing looked at the woman rushing into the official road on the right, then pulled the reins and also entered the official road on the right, galloping on his horse. Qianqiu Luosha naturally heard the crisp sound behind him, couldn't help but turn back, and saw the chasing Yu Longxing. His expression immediately changed. She didn't expect that just looking at the young man with a displeased expression, she would casually kill someone on the roadside and even encounter such a skilled person. There are certainly people who can evade her secret weapon techniques, but there are not many in the martial arts world who can knock them all away in an instant. Young master. I am not an opponent. Qianqiu Luosha's face changed, and as he saw Yu Longxing galloping towards him, he immediately waved his hand again. This time, in addition to the 7 hidden weapons in front, there were also locust stones, square darts, flying forks, iron spikes, ox hair needles, and meteor chains in mid-air. Nima. Yu Longxing couldn't help but curse angrily. It's okay to say that the cow hair needles were stimulated by her needle barrel, with nearly 100 of them all poisonous, and the meteor chain was running towards the white horse under his crotch. He grabbed the reins with his left hand and swung his long sword with his right hand, blocking or dodging the hidden weapons, finally ensuring his safety. However, as he watched the 1,000-armed Raksha getting further and further away, he could no longer catch up. Forget it, she can't live anyway, as long as she knows the way. Yu Longxing shook his head, not in a hurry, reached out and grabbed a handful of black beans in his pocket, fed the horse, comforted it, and then rode it to keep jogging, keeping up all the way. By the way, why does this 1,000-handed Rakshasa want golden silk armor? She is a woman, but she cannot marry Lin Xian'er. Moreover, she is old, and the plum blossom thieves will not deal with her. The two of them are innocent and have no grudges. I'm not worried about someone putting on a golden armor to deal with her, am I? Does she have this qualification? Is her paranoia of persecution too severe? Heading north, the wind grew stronger and snow began to fall. Yu Longxing tightened his furry scarf around his neck and wrapped his mink coat even tighter. His eyes, shining like cold stars, scanned around. Then he saw a jujube red horse, a horse with 1,000 hands. The horse is still there, but the person is missing. It was obvious that Qianshou Luosha had discovered something and didn't want the jujube red horse to make too much noise, so he abandoned the horse. So Yu Longxing also rode his horse into the forest, put down the white horse, and patrolled around, following the trail left by Qianshou Luosha quietly. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Pan das ho and die for money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Pan das ho and die for money. Tap. 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 As Yu Longxing walked through the forest, he heard the sound of horse hooves coming from the other side outside the forest. Through the faint forest, he saw a horse turn out of the official road. At this moment, Yu Longxing was so discerning that he could see clearly. The horse was a fine horse, but the person on it, if a meatball with a broken leg is also considered a human, then the person on horseback is indeed a person. He tightly hugged the horse's neck, holding a bundle in his arms, facing the wind and snow, revealing messy hair and yellow teeth, laughing heartily, as if encountering the most joyful thing in the world. Whoosh whoosh. Then there was a shower of hidden weapons flying down the sky. The meatball let out a strange cry, slapped the back of the horse with both palms, exerted force on its buttocks, and surprisingly jumped 6 feet high, then flipped off the horse's back and dodged the hidden weapon. The horse let out a long hiss, covered in hidden weapons, and flipped over before collapsing. The meatball hugged the bundle with one hand and propped up on the ground with the other. Surprisingly, just like the ball, it rolled into the pine forest with a rumbling motion. Miao Lang Xunhuan Feng, he has already come out of Sun Kuei's small shop, which means that Li Xunhuan has been poisoned. The key is. Yu Longxing smacked his lips, shook his head and sighed. I actually missed the famous scene where Lin Xian'er took off her clothes to seduce Li Xunhuan. Unfortunately, it's so regrettable. Yu Longxing is regretful on one side, but the flower bees on the other side are already in danger. He rolled into the pine forest, using the trees as a cover, and quickly fled in the opposite direction of the hidden weapon. I don't know what Zimian Erlang Sun Kuei and Lady Rose thought. They kept Hua Feng for over a decade and fed him a big bowl of lard mixed with rice every day, turning him into a ball, but they didn't waste his martial arts skills. But it's not a big problem, because the martial arts of the flower bee have never been very good, at least not a match for the 1,000-armed Rakshasa. Wow! The 1,000-hand Raksha did not land, and her lightness skills were also good. She leaped on the branches of the pine forest and caught up with the flower bee in just a few breaths. Wait, I'm willing to give you the golden armor. Of course, Hua Feng heard the swaying sound of pine branches and the shaking sound of snow behind him, and also knew that the hidden weapon master had reached his head. So he flipped over and lifted the package in front of him, loudly begging for mercy. But at the same time, his right hand was clasped against the thumb behind the package, pressing down on a small wooden bottle. His thumb was clasped at the mouth of the bottle, ensuring that he could pop it open at any time. This is the poison that Sun Kuei and Lady Rose forced him to make. Of course it is now his. As long as someone becomes greedy and contemptuous, dares to approach within 3 feet of themselves, the flower bee is confident in taking their life. But the 1,000-handed Raksha clearly only wanted to take things from the dead. The flower bee lay on the snow, and the last sight he saw was a rain of hidden weapons covering him in the sky. The flower bee has turned into a hedgehog. Watching the frightened gaze of the flower bee turn into a deadly gray, the 1,000-armed Raksha standing on the pine branch sneered and lightly jumped, about to land. In the next moment, a sudden change occurs. Whoosh! The sound of breaking wind, swift and sharp, suddenly arrived. The gaze of the 1,000-armed Raksha instantly changed from contempt and satisfaction to fear and despair. Because she had just left the treetop, her whole body was in the air, completely powerless. And the short spear, thick and thin like an egg, had already reached her chest with the sound of the breaking wind. Puff! Ah! Dong! The sound of a short spear piercing into the flesh, the screams of a woman, and the sound of metal piercing into the wood almost simultaneously rang out. Surprisingly, the famous 1,000-armed Rakshasa in the martial arts world was pierced through his chest by the short spear and nailed directly to the trunk of a tree. At the next moment, two people jumped down from the two trees in front of her. One is a middle-aged man dressed in fox fur, with a white face and no need for hair. He looks well cared for, probably in his 40s, but with excellent maintenance, he looks like a wealthy family. One is a bald man who doesn't need an eyebrow, has a strong physique, and doesn't look like a good person. It was Pan Xian'er, the young master of flowers in Xunhuan, and Xian'er, who was also known as reaching out in the coffin to ask for money. That short spear is bloodshot and dirty, don't want it anymore. Pan Xian'er said a word, then went straight to the body of the flower bee, picked up the bundle that had fallen on the body, and without looking at the other person, went straight out of the forest. I hid in the forest for half a day, it's so cold. When have I ever suffered such a crime? Pan Xian'er trembled as he quickly ran out of the forest, and at this moment, on the side of the official road outside the forest, a magnificent carriage that was 8 feet wide was parked. Pan Xian'er got on the carriage, while Xian'er, who was standing in the forest on the other side, jumped onto the pine tree and arrived at the body of Qianqiu Luosha. Looking at the frightened expression and stunning face of Qianqiu Luosha before her death, Xian'er gave a fierce smile and even gave her a kiss on the face. As he took off her clothes, he reached out and touched her whole body. I didn't expect this crazy woman to be quite curious. She has a better temper when she dies than when she's alive. Unfortunately, the weather is too cold, and there are two beautiful women in Pan Dashou's carriage. Otherwise, I would really want to enjoy your body. As Xian'er spoke, he had already peeled off the 1,000-handed Rakshasa completely. Looking at the gorgeous clothes in his hand, he nodded and said solemnly, "Anyway, you don't need these clothes anymore. Giving them to me is not a waste of your life. Lao Shi, let's go." Pan Xian'er's voice came from outside the forest, and Xian'er responded with a nostalgic glance at the jade inlaid on the short spear in front of Qianqiu Luosha's chest. Then, he jumped off the pine tree and flew back. On the carriage, a young girl cooked wine and snuggled up in Pan Xian'er's arms, handing her wine glass. Pan Xian'er turned around and the wine glass leaned against his mouth, gently tilting. The fragrant liquid flowed down his throat and into his stomach. Pan Xian'er smacked her lips and then opened the package, revealing the golden armor inside. Ha ha ha, it's indeed a golden silk armor. The old turtle from the Dragon God Temple is so well informed. Pan Xian'er stroked his golden silk armor and said, $1,000,000 wealth, and the most beautiful woman in the martial arts world. He 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 he. Although Jin Yutong is a famous jeweler in the Central Plains, Pan Dashou's style is extraordinary, he spends a lot of money, and of course, the more wealth he has, the better. Moreover, he is still a famous playboy and the glamorous name of Lin Xian'er, and his ears are even calloused when he hears it. I heard that the plum blossom thief has already appeared in Baoding Prefecture. Let's go over now and show me how beautiful that Wulin's most beautiful woman is. Pan Xian'er smiled and said, Old Shi, when we kill the plum blossom thief this time, it will not be without your benefits. Xian'er held another young girl in his arms, and his subordinates were also dishonest. Upon hearing this, he nodded and bowed with a smile, saying, of course, the plum blossom thief has not been easily captured yet. Old Shirko is pointing his finger at Pan eating with you. Pan Dashou burst out laughing and then said to the man outside the carriage, "There's a fork in the road ahead. Turn in, and that's the tomb of a relative of my mother's clan. Since you're here today, let's go pay respects." Yes. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Finally meets Afei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Finally meets Afei. Yu Longxing followed behind the carriage without showing any trace. He certainly won't save the 1,000-armed Raksha, nor is he interested in the golden silk armor. He's not planning to kill the plum blossom thief and make a name for himself. Does he really marry Lin Xian'er back home and plant grasslands on his head? This kind of woman, let Afei go and influence her. What Yu Longxing is most interested in now is to see Afei's swordsmanship and see the difference between himself and this flying swordsman. Then he followed the carriage into a fork in the road and saw it stop in front of a stone tomb. Immediately after, 2 screams of a young girl came from inside the carriage. At the next moment, Xian'er rushed out of the carriage and slapped each of the other 3 men, using heavy techniques to directly break their hearts. Pooh! Xian'er turned around and spat at the carriage. "Damn it, Pan Dashou, let me be your dog leg. What qualifications do you have to make a promise to me? With the golden armor, I can also kill the plum blossom thief. That $1 million wealth, the first beauty, are all mine. Golden wire armor." With a murmur, Xian'er suddenly turned around and realized that there were even outsiders present in this seemingly desolate stone tomb. Who? Come out. Those who hide their heads and tails. Xian'er let out a loud shout before seeing a young man standing up next to the mausoleum, dressed in tattered clothes. The young man looked only 17 or 18 years old, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. Even though he was only wearing a single coat in the wind and snow, he still stood straight and looked at Xian'er coldly. He said indifferently, "I have never avoided you." Xian'er looked at the young man's clothes and figure, his eyes narrowed, but when he looked at the sword on his waist again, he couldn't help but show a hint of disdainful smile. It turns out to be a young man from the mountains and fields. Even the most destitute people in the martial arts world would not use 2 pieces of cork sandwiched between an iron piece as their own sword. Afei didn't speak because Xian'er was right. He was indeed a young man from the mountains and fields. "But I just killed Pan Dashou from Xunhuan," said Xian'er. "I see it," Afei said lightly. "If you see it, you're going to die." Xian'er said. "Are you going to kill me?" Afei asked. "Poor little one, he's about to die here before he even steps into the martial arts world." Xian'er gave a fierce smile and leaped towards Afei with his left hand in front, forming a tiger claw. If he stretched out or shrunk, he was both offensive and defensive, with his right hand behind and his index finger focused, ready to make a sudden attack and achieve success. Even though facing a young man from the mountains and wilderness, Xian'er did not relax his guard and prepared to kill him as soon as possible, then fled with his golden armor. Then Afei took action. Just as Xian'er approached him 3 feet in front, the sword, which was 3 feet long and seemed like a thin iron plate, appeared between Afei and Xian'er. The handle of the sword was held in Afei's hand, and the tip of the sword had already penetrated Xian'er's throat. Cha! Afei drew out his iron sword, casually swung it, cleaned up the blood droplets on the sword, and inserted it back into his belt. Hee hee. Hee hee. Hee hee. Xian'er let out a strange leak in his mouth, his eyes frightened, and he reached forward with his hands as if trying to catch Afei. But Afei's sword had already taken away his last bit of strength. He didn't catch anything, and then weakly fell to the sky. The falling snowflakes covered his eyes, filling his last line of sight. What a fast sword! Yu Longxing hid aside and was also taken aback. Even if he watched from the sidelines, he couldn't see clearly how Afei drew his sword. His hand speed had already exceeded the visual frame rate of most people. He is truly a young swordsman who has been single for 18 years. And the experience of living in the wilderness also gave Afei the sharpest sense of beast smell. Yu Longxing's heart beat faster, and in the next moment, Afei's gaze met him. He noticed Yu Longxing. So Yu Longxing also openly revealed his figure. Hi. Hello, have you eaten? Yu Longxing turned out from behind the tree and waved at Afei, but did not continue to approach. Are you also here for the golden silk armor? Afei asked. Of course not, I came for a woman named Xian'er Raksha, who attacked me for no reason. I was furious and prepared to teach her a lesson. Yu Longxing doesn't even have a stumbling block, and the excuses are already made. The 1,000-armed Raksha. Afei frowned, whether it was the person in front of him who had been killed by himself or the person in the carriage who had been assassinated by him, it seemed that they had nothing to do with the 1,000-armed Rakshasa and the woman. When I caught up with her, I realized that she had already been killed by these two people. I was curious for a moment, so I followed up and took a look, explained Yu Longxing. You see it now, Afei said lightly. I see it, Yu Longxing nodded. Do you still want the golden silk armor? Afei continued to ask. I don't want to. Yu Longxing shook his head decisively. Why? Afei was curious. Everyone he saw today wanted a golden silk armor. Firstly, I am very wealthy. My wealth is even greater than the luxurious young master in the carriage, and I don't need that million yuan of wealth. Secondly, my martial arts skills are also good. I can't use golden silk armor to deal with ordinary people. Wearing golden silk armor is useless for people I can't deal with. Thirdly, I'm not planning to kill plum blossom thieves. I don't have the need to make a name for myself or pursue profits. Of course, there is also the most important fourth point. Yu Longxing looked at the sword on Afei's belt. I feel like you have some connection with this golden silk armor. I don't want to make a hole in my throat. Upon hearing Yu Longxing's sincere words and praising his martial arts skills, Afei's face softened slightly and he explained, this golden silk armor should belong to a friend of mine. I understand, so you need to take care of him for a while, said Yu Longxing. Afei nodded and asked, who is the plum blossom thief? Why kill the plum blossom thief? You must wear golden wire armor. Yu Longxing was taken aback for a moment before realizing that Afei probably didn't know about the plum blossom thief. When Sun Kuei, the purple-faced Erlang, told Li Xunhuan about the plum blossom thief, Afei had already left. In the original plot, Afei did not meet Li Xunhuan afterwards, but as soon as he appeared, he directly killed the plum blossom thief. He also knew that the plum blossom thief would appear within those 2 days. Who told him? It seems that there is only Tai Chuanjia who was accidentally saved by him. After all, Li Xunhuan's situation will not be hidden from Tai Chuanjia. And Tai Chuanjia knew that Li Xunhuan had a difficult time alone in Xinyan village, and also knew that Afei was wearing golden silk armor. So he told Afei that plum blossom thieves would appear in Xinyan village soon, which is understandable. This time, I didn't know if Afei and Tai Chuanjia would meet, so Yu Longxing told Afei about the plum blossom thief. I see. Afei nodded and finally understood why everyone was grabbing the golden silk armor. Then, disregarding the presence of Yu Longxing, he got into the carriage, took a bundle containing golden wire armor, and drew a sword to leave 2 lines of characters on the inner wall of the carriage. As he walked out, he looked at Yu Longxing who was already approaching and said, thank you for informing me. I have to leave now. Don't worry, you also want to enter the Central Plains, right? Yu Longxing smiled, I happen to have to go back too. Let's stop by, how about we come together? Afei looked at Yu Longxing. Don't misunderstand, I'm really not interested in golden silk armor. I'm also a swordsman, and I admire your skills. Let's communicate more along the way, and how can you teach me? Of course, you have to be kind and don't make a hole in my neck. Yu Longxing raised his hands and said, in return, I'll treat you to a drink and stay at a hotel, and all the expenses along the way will be reimbursed. Afei looked at Yu Longsheng and finally nodded, okay. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Asking Afei for swordsmanship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Asking Afei for swordsmanship. Insert the sword in the middle of the belt, and place the hilt where you can grab and pull it out as quickly as possible. Walk, sit and lie down, keep your body in a natural state, and do not leave your hands and sword handle too far away. The route of drawing swords should be kept at the shortest distance, and the cost of practice can be reduced. The above is what Afei said. Inserting the sword into the belt and placing it almost in the middle is really unsightly. I feel so awkward. There's a feeling of being ready to use a sword to kill at any moment, which is completely different from my elegant and carefree persona. The first two cannot pass. How can we practice this one? Practicing 3,000 times a day on the wrong path. Isn't it true that the farther we go on the wrong path, the harder we work, the faster we die? The above is what Yu Longsheng said. Afei. Yu Longsheng. Of course, apart from these aspects, the two of them had a relatively pleasant time together, especially when fighting swords. Yu Longsheng's swordsmanship is already very powerful. After graduation, he traveled to Shaanxi and Hebei without a single defeat, and his martial arts are high, surpassing the famous masters of the older generation such as Zhao Xingyi and Qin Xiaoyi. The current Yu Longsheng has taken over his predecessor, and has made progress in his mental temperament and calmness. His martial arts have also taken him to the next level, such as using his predecessor's strength to target and fly 22 hidden weapons of the 1,000-hand Raksha. But even so, even though he had distanced himself before drawing his sword, Yu Longsheng still couldn't take Afei's 10 swords. Within 10 swords, Afei will inevitably approach Yu Longsheng, and then use his sword tip to tip Yu Longsheng's throat, stimulating his throat to itch. A batch of cows. Yu Longsheng discovered that besides being extremely fast in swordsmanship, Afei's steps were also very mysterious. Even though he had already fought and retreated, he could still quickly get close in the fight, block his subsequent changes, and give himself a sword. Undoubtedly, he is the son of the Lord of the Ghost Palace. Although he only dominates the martial arts world with a quick sword, he has many small details. Every one of them is a divine skill secret book that ordinary martial artists cannot reach. Amazing. Your body movements are also good, but your response is not as good as mine. Sanjian Mountain Villa can establish a foothold in the martial arts world, and of course, its lightness skills are not weak. Tian Shan Shuangzi is a great expert in lightness skills, but although Yu Longsheng has learned it, he rarely used it before. It can be said that Afei gradually inspired the accumulation of his youth. When they stepped out of the ice and snow and arrived at the mortal world of the Central Plains, Yu Longsheng was already able to withstand 20 moves under Afei's command. Of course, the premise is that Afei cannot draw his sword at close range. Yu Longsheng. A few days later, Baoding Prefecture is in sight from afar. I'm leaving, said Afei, who had already told Yu Longsheng. All banquets come to an end, Yu Longsheng said clearly. But before we leave, we can have a farewell drink. Afei has his own business, and Yu Longsheng wouldn't take Afei to Xin'an village, so the two of them drank a pot of bamboo leaf green at a tavern on the street. This martial arts world is too hypocritical. I carry a hidden sword mountain villa behind me, and sometimes I have to be humble, said Yu Longsheng. I still have a great time getting along with you. You are stronger than them, why should you accommodate them? Afei asked. Because Sanjian Villa still has to do business with them, and they have a relationship with my old father, what can I do? Yu Longsheng shrugged. Heart chi is blocked and swordsmanship is not smooth, Afei said, so your sword won't be fast or stable. The weak chickens in the martial arts world cannot defeat me, they are the majority in the martial arts world. Yu Longsheng nodded and said, if I encounter someone like you, I will definitely turn around and run away. Faced with Yu Longxing's statement, Afei was also speechless for a moment. How could a young swordsman, who is known for his excellent swordsmanship and high status in the martial arts world, feel so cowardly? Aren't warriors all about fighting and winning? Afei said he has never seen such a person before. Is it because he has too little knowledge? If it weren't for knowing the strength of Yu Longxing and getting along well these days, Afei couldn't help but educate Yu Longxing. Don't think that Afei can't educate people. A few days later, when he rescued Iron Chuanjia from the hands of the 8 righteousness of the Central Plains, the set after set of great principles he said almost doubted life. Of course, as the saying goes, the observer is the one who gets lost, and when he falls into the trap of Lin Xian'er, he cannot save himself. Should I go and talk to Lin Xian'er about it, teach on site, and save him? Yu Longxing rubbed his chin and silently thought to himself, after all, we've had a pleasant time together these past few days, and we can all be considered friends. Then there's a thrill. Nima, with Afei's trust and obedience to Lin Xian'er at that time, he won't make a hole in my throat, will he? You should know that Li Xunhuan doesn't sleep with Lin Xian'er, unlike himself. Yu Longxing doesn't believe he has the protagonist aura of Li Xunhuan. Not to mention stimulating him in this way. If Lin Xian'er claims to have oppressed her as the young master of the Cangjin mountain villa and seduced her, never mind, the ending is good anyway. You can only grow and transform into a true flying swordsman by walking through Lin Xian'er's emotional trap. You should know that Tang monk needs to go through 81 difficulties to obtain the true scriptures. If you go through one difficulty, you will be considered a master, and it will not be a loss. Yu Longxing patted Afei's shoulder with encouragement in his eyes. I won't save you, after all, this is also for your own good. Afei. I've been staying overnight at Xunhuan Manor lately. If you have anything to do, come find me, said Yu Longxing. I'll be back at Jinzhong Cangjin Mountain Manor in a while. Welcome to my house as a guest. There is a Shen family ancestral hall outside the west gate of Baoding Prefecture, and I will be staying there soon, said Afei. Okay, if I have nothing to do, I'll go find you to drink, said Yu Longxing. It's a deal, Afei said. Although Afei doesn't interact with many people and doesn't understand human relationships and worldly wisdom, he has a wild animal-like intuition. He can sense who is good to him and who has ulterior motives towards him. Moreover, his mother also told him many stories from the martial arts world. So don't look at him as innocent and easy to deceive. In fact, Yu Longxing blinked and recalled the plot of the original work. Actually, he's really easy to deceive. At least Lin Xian'er made him limp with just one move. Cough, awkwardness. However, being fooled by Lin Xian'er is not embarrassing. There are many people in the martial arts world who have been fooled by Lin Xian'er, and LV Foam has been completely defeated by her. But besides Lin Xian'er, Afei's vision and intuition are still very sharp. So although he always felt that Yu Longxing looked at him strangely, he could be certain that he had no ill intentions towards him. He truly admires himself, seeks advice from himself, invites himself to drink, and makes friends with himself. So Afei is also very happy. He has already made 2 friends before entering the martial arts world. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Li Xunhuan appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Li Xunhuan appears. Yu Longxing and Afei drank this wine very late. But even after drinking, Afei's hands were still stable, and Yu Longxing's eyes were also bright. So they had another sword fight. When Yu Longxing returned to Xunhuan Manor, he heard angry screams and violent fists coming from behind. The sound was loud, indicating that both sides in the battle were rare experts in the martial arts world. What is the situation? Yu Longxing raised his eyebrows and didn't care. He was in Xunhuan Manor, his body vertical and his feet slightly turning into a wisp of light smoke. He quickly rushed towards the scene of the accident. As Yu Longxing was about to turn around a rockery in the park, he saw a person flying towards the forest on the right side. The figure of the newcomer looks elegant and elegant, just the most ordinary swallow 3 times skimming the water, with a slow but fast speed. It floats lightly through the forest with gentle movements, without causing any shaking or snow accumulation in the pine trees. Master. Super expert. Yu Longsheng and Afei walked along the way, and Yu Longsheng dared to guarantee that even Afei did not have such a level of proficiency in lightness skills. There is only one person like this who can still appear in Xinyan village at this time. Li Xunhuan. Yu Longsheng looked at Li Xunhuan, and at this moment, Li Xunhuan also turned to Yu Longsheng, who was rushing towards him. Yu Longsheng was shocked by Li Xunhuan's lightness skills, but little did he know that Li Xunhuan was also quite surprised by Yu Longsheng's appearance. Do you still have experts? In Li Xunhuan's view, this expert who is preparing to bypass the rockery has a graceful and agile body, a steady aura, and a sense of lightness and sharpness. He is definitely a disciple of a famous family, and his martial arts skills are definitely not weak. The two exchanged a glance, and Li Xunhuan was surprised by Yu Longsheng's youth. Yu Longsheng finally saw Li Xunhuan. Li Xunhuan is no longer young, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes are obvious, and his pale face has a sickly blush, making him look really unhealthy. But it's hard for Yu Longsheng to say that Li Xunhuan is not handsome or attractive. His eyebrows are long and sharp, his nose is straight, his appearance is angular, and most importantly, his eyes. His eyes are always gentle and agile, like willow branches swayed by spring breeze, like seawater under summer sunshine, full of delightful vitality. With these talkative eyes, Li Xunhuan wouldn't lack the favor of women. Yu Longsheng discovered the commonalities between Li Xunhuan and Afei. Their eyes are very clear. The confidence and firmness in their eyes will make them clearly different from the general public who are confused in the secular world. Yu Longsheng's eyes flickered. Is this the belief and spiritual power of the masters in the world of ancient dragons? It seems that we need to look in the mirror and practice our gaze more in the future. Both Yu Longsheng and Li Xunhuan were very fast, just in front of each other, and then Li Xunhuan had already crossed the forest. Yu Longsheng also bypassed the rockery and appeared next to several open spaces in Mingxian. In the center of the open space, 2 people were fighting fiercely with their fists, and the wind of their fists was surging, rolling up the snow on the open space and spreading it throughout, faintly enveloping them. At the edge of the open space, the servants of Xinyan village were watching the excitement, while Long Xiaoyun stomped his feet to persuade them to fight. You, surnamed Qin, claim to be chivalrous, but in fact, you are worthless. Your son is seriously injured and cannot be cured. What is his relationship with others? How can you poison him? The speaker was a big man who was nearly 2 meters tall, with a furrowed face and a fierce gaze. At this moment, with each punch and kick, he was full of attacking moves, without any defense. It was Qin Xiaoyi from all directions who fought against him with iron gallbladder. At this time, Qin Xiaoyi's iron courage was not in his hands, but he was a disciple of a common Shaolin family. With one hand of Shaolin divine fist, he was also powerful and imposing. What kind of thing are you? You don't even ask yourself what your identity is, but you dare to meddle in my affairs. I decided to depose you as well. However, Qin Xiaoyi's arrogance was already intimidated by the murderous aura emanating from the big man, gradually falling into the disadvantageous position. At this moment, Li Xunhuan didn't have time to pay attention to Yu Longsheng's identity and quickly asked Long Xiaoyun what was going on. But the Yu Longsheng standing on the side already knew everything. Gone. It's too late again. Missing the famous scene. Not only did I not see Lin Xian'er tempt Li Xunhuan again, but I also missed the first meeting between Yu Longsheng and Li Xunhuan. Hey! Am I Yu Longsheng? Forget it, if you miss it, then miss it. I can't really go and test Li Xunhuan. Yu Longsheng shook his head and said, at this point, my martial arts have surpassed my predecessor. If I go to test it again, what if it really puts pressure on Li Xunhuan and forces him to use his flying knife to make a hole in his throat? Nima, why do experts in the world of dragons like to make holes in others' throats? You should stick your close weapon into your opponent's throat from their mouth. Yu Longsheng looked at Tai Chuanjia and Qin Xiaoyi who were fighting in the field, but he didn't regret walking slowly with Afei and missing the famous scene before. Lin Xian'er's entire body, from top to bottom, with varying sizes and depths, had been explored and measured by herself. However, upon closer inspection, there was not much novelty. But communicating and sparring with Afei along the way is not a common opportunity. In the martial arts world, Yu Longsheng can still distinguish between the lighter and the heavier. The current situation is that Li Xunhuan returned to Xingyan village, killed Qiu Du, the disciple of Qinhua Yiwei, and met Lin Xian'er. Then Lin Xian'er and Li Xunhuan agreed to stay together at Lingxiang Shaozhu tomorrow night, waiting for Plum Blossom to steal their door. Of course, I didn't disturb you halfway. Mr. Mayer here failed to cure Qin Chong, Qin Xiaoyi's son. Qin Xiaoyi angrily took action and was stopped by Li Xunhuan's follower Tai Chuanjia. Then Qin Xiaoyi withdrew, and Tai Chuanjia also separated from Li Xunhuan because they had seen through his identity. They did not see each other until their last meeting before death. TSK, what a pity. Yu Longsheng is recalling the plot here, and Li Xunhuan has already learned the cause and effect of this matter from Long Xiaoyun. Long Xiaoyun asked Li Xunhuan to persuade Tai Chuanjia, but Li Xunhuan coldly refused. In the center of the open space, the iron transmission armor became more and more fierce, like a fierce tiger. Its moves were reckless, and its killing aura was chilling, spreading everywhere. Qin Xiaoyi, who is renowned in the martial arts world, seems to have been forced out of breath. What a powerful servant! How dare you commit the following crimes? I'll teach you a lesson. With a roar, Zhao Xingyi rushed forward from outside with great strides, his steps changing and his fists fighting back and forth, ready to pounce on Iron Chuanjia. With a raised eyebrow, Yu Longsheng saw Zhao Xingyi preparing to take action for the first time. It has to be said that although most of Zhao Xingyi's reputation comes from his hypocritical and impartial reputation, as a person who has fought all the way from the bottom, his martial arts skills are still not weak. Of course, this is not weak, it depends on who we compare with. If someone wants to use 2-on-1 and bully the few with more, I have no choice but to use my flying knife. With a word from Li Xunhuan, Zhao Xingyi's figure suddenly froze like a wooden figure, never daring to take another step and extend a punch. The stiffness of his body made Yu Longsheng burst into laughter. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Qin family father and son exit to receive box lunch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Qin family father and son exit to receive box lunch. Upon hearing Yu Longsheng's laughter, Zhao Xingyi's face turned red. He glanced at Yu Longsheng and then at Li Xunhuan. The servant you brought committed crimes below. Not only did you ignore the teachings, but you also fueled his arrogance. Do you think there is no justice in the martial arts world anymore? Li Xunhuan stood with his hand on his back and said calmly, what is justice in the martial arts world? Is it only fair when two fight each other? Zhao Xingyi angrily said, you should know, this is not a martial arts competition, but to discipline the servant for you. He never needed anyone to discipline him, but if Mr. Zhao also wants to fight him, he might as well replace Mr. Qin and go up and take action on his own. Li Xunhuan said with a smile on his face. Zhao Xingyi's eyes widened. His martial arts were on par with Qin Xiaoyi's, even if he had a slight advantage, he had no confidence in surpassing Tai Chuanjia. Do you think no one present can discipline the servant for you? Zhao Xingyi glanced at Yu Longsheng. You still have time to stop him at this moment. If you provoke Lord Yu Xiao to take action, I'm afraid your servant will die directly by his sword. Zhao Xingyi paused for a moment and continued, Master Yu Xiao has traversed the rivers and streams of the Central Plains, acted chivalrous and righteous, and despised the little mouse generation the most. I will commit the following crimes. Master Yu Xiao. Li Xunhuan looked at Yu Longsheng and remembered what Lin Xian'er had said to him in the small shop that day. Long Xiaoyun quickly introduced, Brother Yu is not only the young master of the hidden dragon elder, but also the only descendant of the former first swordsman Tian Shan Shuangzi. Li Xunhuan couldn't help but be surprised at the words and said, Tian Shan Snow Eagle Son. Even Li Xunhuan, upon hearing the title of the former world's #1 swordsman, couldn't help but feel a chill and moved. His gaze towards Yu Longsheng also increased in importance. Yu Longsheng looked at Li Xunhuan and then at Long Xiaoyun. In theory, he probably didn't know Li Xunhuan at this time. Long Xiaoyun immediately introduced, Brother Yu just came back and doesn't know my brother yet. His surname is Li and his name is Li Xunhuan. Looking at the world today, I'm afraid only my brother is qualified to make friends with Brother Yu. Shaoli Flying Dagger, don't waste your time. Yu Longsheng immediately looked up and looked at Li Xunhuan's hand, then at the iron transmission armor that was pressing Qin Xiaoli in the field. It turned out to be Shaoli Tanhua's servant, no wonder he has such skills. He is indeed a strong general with no weak soldiers under his command. Yu Longsheng smiled and said, this horizontal practice is really amazing. I'm afraid my sword won't even pierce his skin. Without feeling the malice of Yu Longsheng, Li Xunhuan breathed a sigh of relief and quietly withdrew the flying knife that he had already received. He has just seen the body technique of Yu Longsheng and has no intention of belittling the enemy. Although Yu Longsheng had a high posture and referred to Tai Chuanjia as a servant, the kindness in his words still made Li Xunhuan feel a rare ease and warmth in this familiar and unfamiliar Xinyan manner. It seems that the young master of Cangjin Mountain Manor has a strong sense of being both a father and a teacher, and is not on the same path as Lin Xian'er and Qiu Du. You're welcome, Master Yu Xiao. My partner is practicing clumsy martial arts, but he can't stop Master Yu Xiao's sharp sword energy, Li Xunhuan smiled. In Li Xunhuan's gaze towards Yu Longsheng, there was also appreciation, a faint regret, and a hint of contemplation. Yu Longsheng still didn't know, just because of this little kindness, Li Xunhuan was already thinking about how to make him wake up and how to rescue him from Lin Xian'er's magic palm. Seeing that Yu Longsheng not only did not take action due to his instigation, but also exchanged compliments with Li Xunhuan, Zhao Jingyi couldn't help but grind his teeth in anger. That's not right, it doesn't conform to Yu Longsheng's consistent style. Zhao Jingyi's mind was spinning. Yu Longsheng has always been aloof, looked down upon by everyone, and he values his social status and rules the most. He cares about being praised by others. If someone is so aggressive on weekdays, even if he doesn't take action, he will definitely speak out and mock. But today Zhao Jingyi thought about it for a while, but only came to the conclusion that the deterrent power of Xiao Li's flying knife was too great, which made Yu Longsheng, who was usually above the top eye, change his personality forcefully. You're a coward. Zhao Jingyi cursed inwardly, completely ignoring the fact that he dared not take action. And he still dares not take action now. So, Long Xiaoyun didn't take action, Yu Longsheng didn't take action, and Zhao Jingyi didn't either. Qin Xiaoli on the field could only rely on herself. But he seems unreliable on his own. With a loud bang, Qin Xiaoli finally had to fight with Tai Chuanjia. Of course, he couldn't compete with the iron transmission armor. After the two fists clashed, the iron transmission armor remained motionless. However, Qin Xiaoli spat out a mouthful of blood, and the person was directly thrown out by the shock, stumbling and falling. Blood sprinkles on the snow, making it even whiter. Blood sprinkled on the purple robe, making it even dimmer. Qin Xiaoi's meticulously groomed beard and hair were all scattered, with a grayish-white beard mixed with faint blood. He himself was panting heavily and his eyes were lifeless, indicating that the strike from Iron Chuanjia had caused him significant injuries. Yu Longsheng nodded, no wonder he was besieging Li Xunhuan later. Qin Xiaoli did not appear, and this heavy punch had already injured his organs. Even with Qin Xiaoi's relatively strong qigong cultivation, without a year and a half of calm cultivation, there is no need to try again. On the other side, Qin Xiaoyi's iron armor, which had shaken off Qin Xiaoyi, stood up high and looked at Long Xiaoyun and Zhao Xingyi. He sternly said, "Who else wants to teach me a lesson? Please take action. Zhao Xingyi and Long Xiaoyun will certainly not fight Iron Chuanjia again." They all grabbed Qin Xiaoyi's side and helped him up. At this moment, Qin Xiaoyi, although defeated, looked at Tai Chuanjia with a strange look in her eyes, and a malicious smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. As if saying, "If you dare to hurt me, I will take your life." Qin Xiaoyi leaned into Zhao Xingyi's ear and whispered a few words. Zhao Xingyi's eyes couldn't help but brighten. He glanced at Tai Chuanjia, but concealed the ferocious smile in his eyes. Instead, he said, "I didn't expect you, my friend, to have a rare martial arts skill in the martial arts world. Even I underestimated you. No wonder Third Lord didn't notice for a moment and was about to be ambushed by you." Tai Chuanjia sneered, "If you lose, you are being ambushed by others. If I lose, I am not proficient in learning. I have already understood this truth very well, you don't have to say it." Being mocked by someone riding on his face, Zhao Xingyi could no longer resist and couldn't help but angrily say, "Mr. Tai, I think you are a man and I have a heart to protect you. You must not know what's good or bad." Being called out for breaking his name, Li Xunhuan's eyes flickered beside him, and Tai Chuanjia couldn't help but be taken aback. His face changed, and he took a deep breath before confidently saying, "Tai didn't have Uncle Zhao to protect him. He has lived until now and feels a bit impatient. If you have any means, Zhao, just use them." Encountering an iron transmission armor that not only didn't kill him, but was also more powerful than him and had been continuously outputting on his face, Zhao Xingyi couldn't do anything about it. So he could only glare at Tai Chuanjia and Li Xunhuan a few times, say, "Good," 5 or 6 times, then help Qin Xiaoyi up and leave. In his heart, even Yu Longsheng, who watched him suffer silently, hated him. Long Xiaoyun blocked half of his body, his eyes flickering from side to side, and he smiled and said, "Everyone has something to say, so why?" Qin Xiaoyi looked up and laughed heartily, supporting Zhao Xingyi. "My father and son have both fallen here, what else can we say?" Long Xiaoyun was powerless to stop anymore and could only bow his head. When he looked up again, Qin Xiaoyi and Zhao Xingyi had already gone far. End of this chapter.